Welcome. Thank you for being here. My name is Andy Wilkie, Executive Vice President of Greater Mankato Growth. I'm one of your moderators this evening. I'm joined by Steve Jamison of the Mankato Free Press as co-moderator. I would like to thank Steve and the Mankato Free Press for your partnership with this forum. For those who don't know, Greater Mankato Growth is the Chamber of Commerce and Economic Development organization for Greater Mankato region. Our membership includes more than 900 businesses, nonprofits, and public partners. We also operate Visit Mankato, City Center Partnership, and Green Seam. Our economic development work includes the Regional Economic Development Alliance, a partnership of 6 cities and 2 counties, all working together to promote the Greater Mankato region and grow the primary economy. Our goal tonight is simple. We want to give voters a chance to hear from candidates directly about issues that impact the business and economic vitality of our region. I would like to thank you all for attending tonight, and a special thank you to our friends at the City of Mankato for hosting us this evening. This event will be recorded and will be available online at greatermankatoelections.com. Before I address some housekeeping items, I would like to let you know that Greater Mankato Growth will be hosting a total of 5 candidate forums this year. Our next forum for Blue Earth County Commission is Wednesday, October 2nd at 6 p.m. right here in this room. You can get more information on all past and upcoming forums along with a voter toolkit and candidate biographies at greatermankatoelections.com. All right, I'd like to set a few expectations of our audience to help us present an engaging and civil dialogue this evening. We have more questions than we have time for, so we ask that you help us make the most of our time by holding your applause until the end of the forum, and there be no shouting or heckling of the moderators. This evening's format is as follows. Each candidate will be asked a question and given a couple minutes to answer that question. Now, there are 4 of you, so I hope we can keep the responses closer to a couple minutes and not a whole lot more. I may interject as needed. That being said, we do want to hear from the candidates and are interested in a robust discussion and getting their thoughts on issues, so it may take longer in some instances. Follow-up questions will be at the discretion of the moderators. These questions have been put together by me and Steve, along with input for the Greater Mankato Growth Advocacy Committee. They have not been shared with the candidates. Lastly, some of you will be able to submit questions from the audience, and we will read some of those later on as time allows. Now, it is my pleasure to introduce the candidates for this evening's forum. Representing Ward 2 is Dennis Deacon, Ward 4, Jen Melby Kelly, and the at-large seats, Mike Lavin and Brett Skilbred. Please join me in thanking them for being here this evening. Now, we'll have Steve kick it off with our first question, starting with Mr. Mike Lavin.
Awesome. So, easy question to start with. Tell us who you are and why you are running for city council, please.
Thanks, Steve. My name is Mike Lavin. I am currently the at-large member of the City Council, and I'm seeking re-election. The reason why is because I don't want to sit on the couch or the bar stool and tell everyone how I think it should be done. I want to be engaged. I want to find out the reasons why the community is doing what they're doing, and the city has an opportunity to share that information, and I want to be part of that group.
That was nice and succinct. Thank you. Good evening, everyone, and thank you to our moderators and audience, those of you here in attendance and those online watching. My name is Brett Skilbred. My wife, Christy, and I moved here 12 years ago to Mankato from Fort Wayne, Indiana. However, I am not a true transplant. My parents were born and raised in north central Iowa and south central Minnesota, and they actually began their life together here in Mankato after graduating from MSU with business and nursing degrees. After high school, I graduated from Purdue University with a Bachelor of Science degree. After that, I met my wife, Christy. We moved to Bloomington, Indiana, and I obtained an MBA from Indiana University. In 2012, we moved here with our 2 sons to start our fresh family, bring our fresh family here to Mankato. Our sons, Jaden and Reese, are 16 and 13. I am running because I want to ensure the services and quality of life provided by the city of Mankato are world class. I bring a new voice to the council and fresh perspectives. I am dedicated and committed to working to make Mankato a place where everyone has a voice and feels valued. Having lived in other world-class communities, I bring vision. The time is now for bold, forward thinking as Mankato is growing and changing. My vision for Mankato includes enhancing our city's livability by driving economic prosperity and ensuring fiscal responsibility. Lastly, I want to bring energy and experience to the council. I want to make Mankato a great place to live, work, and grow. Thank you.
Thank you.
Dennis?
Dennis?
Thank you. Good evening. My name is Dennis Deacon, and I've lived in Mankato for 32 years. I've been on the council for, this is my second term, and I am seeking a third term. And before I was on the council, I liked I like living in Mankato. I like the way Mankato is operated, and I wanted to be a part of that success. And so I'm seeking a third term for that.
Jen?
All right, I'm Jen Melby Kelly. I represent Ward 4. I am currently in my second term, and I am running for a third term also. And who I am a local business owner. I own a coffee shop here in Mankato, and I've been running that for the last 17 years. I'm also a local musician, singer, songwriter, and I'm a wife, and I'm a dog owner. And I'm running because I want to keep being present for my community. Owning a business is a really great way to get to learn about the people that live in our area. And I just was really connected to community, and this is something that I wanted to do to promote things like diversity and inclusion, and talk about affordable housing, and talk about infrastructure, and making sure that the city is making good decisions. And that's why I want to keep doing this, and I'm running for my third term.
Fabulous, thank you. All right, this next question, we're going to start off with Brett, and we'll move back and come back to Mike. And it's on one of the chief responsibilities as a city council member, that's budgets and taxes. So setting the budget and property taxes is one of the most critical roles of the city council. How would you approach balancing the needs to make strategic investments in our community while also minimizing property tax rates? Are there any specific priorities that you think deserve additional funding consideration? Brett?
Yeah, thank you. To start, I would say that specific priorities at this point, being this early in my campaign and tenure, I don't, I'm still out asking the community and talking to folks about their priorities and the things that are important to them. So that aside, I believe that we need to set a standard, and that standard that I mentioned earlier is to be a world-class community. So without compromising the level of service and livability that we have here in Mankato, then we can look to the budget and look for ways to make it fit the needs of the community. The old adage is you get what you pay for, but I also think I've lived in a world of managing several businesses, growing several businesses, and in that world, the customer is always right. You always have to give more for less, and so I believe that my career has been filled with balancing out those kind of competing standards. So with that said, I would bring more strategies to how we think about the budget, how we look at the budget, the things that we do and discuss. So obviously there are things like trying to increase revenue, looking at operational efficiencies, and then the thing that I often go to the most is establishing metrics and then using comparables. There's nothing, I think, more powerful than to look to others, to other great communities, to other leaders, and look for the things that they're doing, set the standard, create the metrics, and compare yourself and make decisions through the lens of perspective, not just focused on who we are here and what we're doing in a microcosm.
Very good, thank you. Dennis, to you.
Oh, thank you. I think one of the areas that I think is important is public safety, maintaining public safety, and maybe that would be one area of increase or improvement. But I think that the city provides a good level of service, And I think maintaining that level of service with the budget that we have, and watching how the budget is presented, I guess, and we look at those numbers, and we're able to provide some guidance in maintaining this good level of service. So.
Jen?
So how do I approach the needs and of our community when it comes to our budget is the question.
Yes, ma'am.
That is correct. Okay. So one of the things that that I really look at when we go through the budget is actually the numbers, and they bring us the budget every year, and we get to look at it and talk about it for hours and hours, and it's fantastic. And it's a really good time. And our job on the city council is to make sure that the city is making smart decisions. And so when it comes to the budget, we get the budget ahead of time, we look at it, we do our research if we need to. And we listen to what our taxpayers are asking for. And it's things like, upgrading our parks and making sure that we're doing a good job with our infrastructure, and making sure that we're looking at diversity and inclusion and affordable housing and things like that. Those are things I really believe in. And we do a really good job of breaking it down and looking at it. And I think I answered the question. Did I answer the question?
Absolutely.
I get a little excited when I'm doing this. Okay.
I'm still trying to figure out the microphone.
Yeah, right.
Mike?
Well, as I said, we shut ourselves off often, even after
Often.
years of being here. So, the budget is, now Jen may have had a tinge of sarcasm in her comment there, but I actually, I think my social media posts when the budget arrives at home, it's hand delivered because it's usually a binder about 4 inches thick. That's like my funnest weekend ever because there is a lot of detail, don't get me wrong, but it's the overall philosophy at the beginning of here's where we're at, the matrix, as Brett mentioned, where we stand as a city as ourselves. Are we overtaxing ourselves? Are we undertaxing ourselves? Are we able to provide the services that as the expectations that we hear about? And then what's that impact on a homeowner, a business, commercial property, industrial property? Where are we at with that? And then those priorities are, I'll say, baked into that budget. So we move forward with that. And as you said, the strategic nature of it, we're just wrapping up the final draft of our strategic plan, which will really guide our community for the next 5 years. And those are overarching categories of where things are. A little over 2,000 people across the community weighed in on that and provided us that feedback of what they'd like to see Mankato be for the next 5 years. That's our guide. And then we need to work within those parameters and those budget dollar amounts. I will just use our most recent budget. Our concern as a council was our fund balance staying at a healthy level. It needs to stay between 40 and 50% of our revenue throughout the year. And the challenge we saw with our initial numbers was that we hover at that 40.5% as opposed to maybe 42, 43. And we said, okay, what happens if we go with a slightly higher levy, and what will that do for that amount? Well, here's what it would do for that amount. It'll give us about 41%, 41.5% actually, so a full percent higher. But when it comes to what it causes on someone's property taxes, we were looking, I think, between $18 and $22 for a home. And the commercial properties, slightly about $10 more a month. So, I mean, we started to say, okay, is this going to make sense for us? So, that's the process that we all go to. But it does matter. We do pay attention to saying, hey, is this project going to come in under budget or under budget? That's why we look at each one of those projects every spring and say, can we afford to do this street project? Can we afford to build this building? Can we afford, as I look at Turtle Lot, it took us 7 years, even with a pandemic, took us 7 years to say, this is what we can afford to do there. And we needed to make sure we were making that a good conscious decision that it's something that's going to be an asset for the next 40 years, as opposed to saying, well, let's just not do anything. And so those are some of those examples right there.
Thank you, sir.
All right, the next question is on economic development, and we'll be starting with Dennis. When it comes to economic development, our region values collaboration and partnership. As such, our region has been celebrated as a national model for public-private partnerships. What would be your approach to economic development to ensure that Mankato is an attractive place to live and do business?
Well, I think that, providing the property tax at a level that is acceptable, and I think that stability with our property tax and providing us stability with expenses for those businesses so they can anticipate, when doing business here. Let's see. I think that helping to provide housing and childcare so that there can, so workforce support is also another, a good element of making it a friendly place for business. I think that's it.
All right.
Can you ask the question again?
Yeah, what would be your approach to economic development to ensure that Mankato is an attractive place to live and to do business?
Okay. When I'm looking at economic development, and we talk a lot as a city about the partnerships that we have. We have the partnership with the state, we have the partnership with Blue Earth County, and some other private entities that we have partnerships with. And one of the things that I look at on the EDA, the economic development, is making sure that our parks are looking great. And we are talking also about affordable housing. That's a really big thing right now that we're dealing with, and bringing into our community the community land trust. Those are things that I'm always going to support and push for. And again, I really work to listen to what the community has to say, what my constituents have to say, and then I bring those ideas to the table when we have our meetings on economic development.
Thank you. Mike?
Thank you. I have to preface this with what we already do here and the approach to economic development. A wonderful private-public partnership that occurs is actually with Greater Mankato Growth. And I mean, I think a little bit in the context of the beginning of Green Seam, we were helped there with help to direct vision because granted the city of Mankato, not exactly an agricultural hub itself, but surrounded by agriculture. I'm confident that every soybean and cornfield around us does impact us in every day. But we're in cahoots, so to speak. We help fund the City Center Partnership, Visit Mankato, and also RITA. And I say that with a very proud sense because, as mentioned at the beginning with the question, this is a national model. To be able to collaborate on the government side with business in this manner is not found often and successful across the United States. And so with that, going forward, what I continue to want to see us do as a city is streamline the process to make that development occur. Councilmember Jen Kelly mentioned the housing component. We've streamlined our process to be able to make those processes even faster. We've limited it down to several days and several weeks. With that, one piece we've changed since COVID is we've asked our developers for housing as well as commercial development, industrial development, is reach out to the abutting neighbors, whether it be houses or businesses next to them, and get their input before they come to the city council to help eliminate some of those pitchforks and torches and all those kind of events that happen at council meetings you see around the country. We want to make sure that we're getting everyone an opportunity to weigh in and get consensus built, so as we move through our process, it is streamlined, but it's a matter of we've got the information going forward, that we're not rushing into things. And so I advocate that we continue to move that way forward so we're not slowing the community down. I am thinking back, I can only think of one development in the last 4 years, housing development, that we said no to, and that would be the development proposal for the Good Counsel Hilltop. As a community, we said, let's talk to the neighbors. Let's talk to the people who would be directly impacted by that, both in the Turtelot neighborhood as well as Loyola. That engagement allowed our community to make a good decision. Now, you can disagree with the decision and you can support the decision. That's absolutely fundamental to what we do in America. But we have to have that process in place, or else we just continue to stumble and bumble and things don't come to reality. Again, that's the only one I can think of. I defer to my colleagues if they can think of others we've said no to, but I think we've said yes to all housing development per se. And so, anyway.
And Brett?
So I believe in the philosophy that we are better together and win together, and also in the world-class model established by GMG to push the economic agenda of our region. That said, I believe that we should continue to invest in and grow our partnerships, both regional, both at the state level, the county level, and with private industry. I believe that we need to invest in initiatives and programs to promote a skilled workforce with access to affordable housing. Having employees that can't afford to live in this community means they won't live in this community. I also believe that we should continue to attract, promote, and do our best to retain the businesses that we have. I think that we need to continue to invest and provide community amenities, making Mankato a desirable place to live. If we can go out and attract the best because we have the best, we will create great things in this community. And I also believe that it is the role of the council to limit unnecessary expenses and regulations imposed both advertently and inadvertently on those that are driving our economy.
Thank you.
Very good. We're going to move on to a topic that, Jen, you have talked about a couple times already, housing. So you get to start us off, and we'll come over here to Mike and come back around. So housing continues to be a major issue, as we've already heard in this community. We hear a lot often about affordable housing, but there's really a need for housing at all levels in our community. How will you promote diverse types of housing in our community and ensure developers are able to pursue housing projects in a highly competitive marketplace?
Well, that's a loaded question. It is true, housing is a major issue right now, and I'm always talking about affordable housing, and we talk about it a lot on the city council. And I think that's a good question. I think working with the developers and having the discussions that we have, and we do have discussions with developers. They come here to the council chambers and we discuss with them and we ask them the hard questions. I ask them, where's the affordable part of this? You know, and they get a little frustrated, but that's okay. And just, I think on my end, making sure that I'm asking the questions that need to be answered and I'm asking the hard questions, and that we're making smart decisions for the community, that the housing is not only nice and done well, but it's affordable. It's not meant for just a certain tier of people or income. And that's something that we need to work on every day. And yeah, I think that's what I got there.
Thank you. Mike?
I think there's two words affordable. There's capital A affordable, the big A, and little a affordable. Capital A or big A, I would say, is where the city's involved, Ornez Plaza, vouchers, income-based housing, and the land trust, the housing trust. Those are the things that we're directly involved in making a reality for people to have housing. And that's a traditional role for the city. And with that, the other piece is the low-income tax credit, housing credits that are available to developers if they're willing to invest in those 15 and 30-year projects to be able to provide housing at an affordable rate for that time period and maintain the properties for the integrity of that property. Those developers are few and far between, but we've certainly tried to work with them. I look at our property and development behind Cub West with Con Ezra. That is a project actually council members Deacon and Melby Kelly and I all sat on that subcommittee to kind of guide that through the process of what do we want to use this space for. And this was 6 years ago, and we said, let's make housing happen here. With that said, the lowercase a, the affordable, goes back to the private sector and the market rate. Now, market rates are going to be determined on a couple of things that we can't control. The price of goods that it costs to build a house, apartment building, we can't control that. And we can't control wages. we'd love to, but we can't. So, you know, mythically, according to livingwage.edu or .mit from MIT, they have a living wage calculator all across the country, and they have Mankato specifically in there, and they say a single person making $19.03 an hour can afford $908 a month in rent. Two things I read that: who pays $19 in that cents per hour, and then where are you going to find something for $900 for a single person? They're there, but they're usually full, or they're in disrepair, and so no one wants to pay that amount. So then the weird part of that little spreadsheet is that if you add a dependent, the wage that a person is supposed to live in Mankato on with a dependent, when you include the food, transportation, daycare, it goes to $33 an hour. I do not know an employer in Mankato that would accept an employee walking in the door tomorrow and saying, I need a $23 an hour raise. Now, there's reasons, but that being said, is where does the city play in that role? Again, we've streamlined what we can when it comes to that development component. We absolutely, we have developers from outside Mankato that have been coming to us and wanting to build housing, and that's fantastic. That means that the existing developers that are here have basically maxed out. They can't build any faster, so we're entertaining that. We've got to continue to be open and viable to that. I look at our colleagues in St. Peter. Several years ago, they shrunk their lots to make them less expensive for sewer and water, and that project worked well for the very first phase. The second phase, everyone wanted a double-car garage, and everybody wanted access to their side yards, and everybody wanted more space. And so phase 2 became a little bit more of a traditional neighborhood, and the price point raised accordingly. So there's solutions out there. We're absolutely willing to look at that. But the reality is the city is as nimble as it can be and willing to make those things happen.
Thank you, sir. Brett?
And just for record, is Liz our timekeeper that I got to keep my eye on her if she throws me the sign?
Right
or
here.
Is it just
Right
you,
here.
Andy? Okay. All right. I just want to make sure because I haven't been noticing Liz and I'm in trouble.
So this question of affordable housing kind of strikes right at the very core of some things that I spend my time on. In my day-to-day life, I do two things. I am a partner in a manufacturing company, and I also do consulting for folks that are working through permitting and planning processes. And so the first thing I would say is that one of the things that I've always strived to do is to upwage and upskill our employees. And so that starts with skilled workforce education. It starts in our high schools. So that way we have folks that are earning living wages right out of high school, so that then they can afford these market rate houses and even the subsidized ones. And it's understanding that there is a progression, and I get that, and we have to have options available for those that don't have the skills right away, but then we need to invest in programs that start to build those skills. So that's kind of my employment side, and I can tell you this, that we're seeing kids coming out of South Central College with less than a two-year degree making upwards of $75,000 a year. That's a great thing for this community, and we need more of that. Then the second side of this is the development consulting work that I do. So as Mike mentioned, there are tax credits available, but those are only for multifamily projects. The one thing that I've noticed that the city has started to do, which I think is a very smart move, is they have started to invest in single-family homes that can be owner-occupied. So that means people can start building equity, and they can start earning that ownership of their of their housing. So two programs there. One is the Community Development Block Grant, which provides investment. The other thing is, and that's administered by our EDA, which is our Economic Development Administration, and really the only role of that administration at this point is housing, because GMG takes care of the rest. So the EDA is very, very focused on affordable housing, and this new program administered through the CBDG is very has a lot of opportunity and a lot of potential. However, the EDA is only using several of the 25 tools in their toolkit to make building housing in this community more affordable. So if we can continue to focus on what we can do as a council to reduce the expenses of building these houses. Right now, I think some of the single-family homes are in the $300,000 to $400,000 range. That's not a home for a new homeowner. That's not a home for someone that is making your $18 wage, right? That's setting them up for failure. What we need to do is we need to figure out how to build a $160,000 home or rehab some of our old homes and make those much more affordable and move people into those types of situations. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Dennis, final word on housing.
Well, thank you. I think, could I have the question repeated
Yeah, sure.
again? I just want to make sure
Yes, how will you promote diverse types of housing and ensure that developers are able to pursue housing projects in a highly competitive marketplace?
Well, I think that we, with the Land Trust, Housing Trust, support that. Those provide opportunities that may not be there otherwise for a family to purchase a home. And I think that as far as the cost for building, as Mike was talking about, it's something that's really out of our control. But we do everything we can to help developers, to move forward with the process of building affordable housing, any housing as far as that goes. So
Very good.
that's it.
Thank you.
I think we're on Mike.
All right, Mike. We're going to go on to workforce, which we've talked about some already. One of the strategic advantages of our region is that we are home to more than 25,000 college students at 5 colleges and universities, including the second largest university in Minnesota. As employers are struggling more than ever to recruit a highly trained workforce, what can you do as a council member to ensure that students and young professionals choose Mankato as a place to put down roots?
I think back to the inner-city leadership visit to Fayetteville, Arkansas that took place with approximately 70 of us across the community through Greater Mankato Growth. And what Fayetteville was doing is I can't remember the exact name of the program, but it was basically a freshman orientation of how to become a citizen of Fayetteville. And so they found people connections in their community. If they happen to be going to school for veterinary science, they worked with all of the vets in the area to be able to fill those positions that are needed. And they really broke down some of those barriers to, well, you need experience, you need that. So there were people that were working in law firms that wanted to be lawyers, but they were doing administrative tasks in that law firm, but getting that exposure, building that network out of connections. So when they came to getting that degree, they are less likely to leave the area and be able to stay in the area because they have now a connection across at they called it a chamber, a traditional old school chamber. But they said, this is how we got the networking going, because all of a sudden you have people that are in the community that I've worked here, I know such and such, they know such and such, and they embed them into the community. And that was probably one of the, I'll say the most disappointing parts of coming away from that is that we came out of that, we had momentum, and then as a community we kind of let that sit on a shelf. And then COVID hit, and so I would love to be able to re-engage that idea, because just coming here, I was at the university talking to the student leaders at Bethany, South Central, and MSU, and that's kind of the conversation is how do you get everyone involved in the community when it's easy to isolate on the campus and yet be part of that. So that to me is an economic development and workforce piece that has to happen. Sorry, the default answer of housing, but again, the more opportunities we have for that, there are some people that Eagle Lake, Lake Crystal, Nicollet, North Mankato, the greater Mankato area is going to be their home, and driving into Mankato proper might be part of the deal. My boss actually lives in Waseca and comes to Mankato every day to work, and that's the preference they have. But how do we make that obtainable for them and make that is always a question we're pondering and looking and keeping our eyes open to what can be done. Their federal programs and state programs, I will say, are great grants to help, but you really have to have the deeper thought of how do we sustain that moving forward. And so I worry when those things get dangled in front of us from various organizations and consultants, and I'm like, well, yes, but how do we make that happen in the long run? So,
Thank you.
again, I think it's just a matter of making sure we embed those 25,000 students into the community in a better manner.
Thank you.
Thank you. And Brett?
Well, so someone must have been listening on that Fayetteville trip because GMG just recently began a young professionals mentoring program on the campuses of our local institutions. Excuse me. And so what that does is it pairs young professionals with those that are getting degrees in this community. So it opens their eyes to what's it like to be a young professional here. It creates that network. So I think continuing to invest in those types of programs are critical. I'm always surprised by the amount of innovation that is coming out of the offices of Andy and the GMG folks. This is another one of those. The other thing is we need to continue to invest in projects that support livability. There are so many unrealized assets in this community. You think about the prairie and the bluffs to the north, the river, which, most people, if you're just coming through town, almost wouldn't know exists. And then the trails, hills, and all the small rivers to the south, great kayaking, and just getting out and being an active community. So continue to invest in things like Visit Mankato, and those types of things that make livability that much better here in Mankato are critical to keeping those young professionals. And then the last thing, and this is something that my wife and I employed when we moved here because we knew no one and we knew nothing about the community, it was just get involved. If our young folks, those that are here on campus, can just get involved, number one, it brings vitality and energy into our community, and it brings these young people with great ideas. I mean, there's ideas out there that we don't even know because we don't see them. So if we can get them involved in our social programs and volunteering and get involved on our boards, the more involved someone is while they're in college, when they're just out of college, the more opportunities they have to talk to employers, the more likely they are to stay here. Excuse me.
Thank you. Dennis?
Thank you. Yeah, I think, Brett, you touched on livability. That's what, that is, I believe that is the key to having a successful community. I think that if you provide, amenities that provide a good livability, I think that attracts people here, makes the students want to stay, I think, and that, would maybe organically grow the businesses and things build from there. I think without livability, that really is a detriment to any growth at all.
Thank you. Jen?
All right, I hope I can read my words. One of the things that I wrote down was supporting small businesses is key, I think, to the city of Mankato is a great place to have a small business, and we bring in college students into these small businesses, and they work with us. And the more support we can give to small businesses here in Mankato, I think the better we're going to be. And also thinking about the things that we do have in place, the Community Land Trust, the CBDG funding that we have. The Community Land Trust is a great way to help young professionals or a young family to purchase a home. And we've talked about it a little bit this evening, and basically the land is owned by the community, and the house on that land is what the person purchases or the family purchases, and then they can build their equity in that home, and they can sell the home down the road, but the land is still owned by the community, but it gives them a chance to purchase a house on a much lower price range. The other thing that you talked about is some of the programs here with the two-year college. Those are really great programs too to get people into making good wages. And apprenticeships is something that you brought up a little bit too. Apprenticeships are really great to be able to bring people that want to be lawyers into the field, but they don't know how to do it yet, and so they're going to work in the office. That's really great, being more open to that. The other thing that I talk about a lot is when it comes to livability, affordability is a really big thing when I'm talking to young people from MSU, or I'm talking to my staff who are telling me that their rent is higher than what I pay for my house. And they work at my coffee shop. And it's really difficult, like you said, to make sure that we have that life balance for people. So a lot of the people that I know that move up to Minneapolis or out of Mankato say they can't live here. And one of the things that I would like to see is the city working together with landlords and also builders and bringing them to the table so we can work together to provide affordable housing for the young people that want to stay here and want to work with some of the great businesses that we have here and learn from the people here. There's really great information for people out there and really great places to go. There's small businesses that'll take you and talk with you. I've always said that I'll be willing to talk with anybody that wants to talk to me about what I do. There's other places like the Maker Space that invites artists to meet with each other and to learn from each other. That's a really great place. There's a lot of innovation that happens in Mankato. And I think really trying to get the information out there so people understand that Mankato is really a booming, beautiful place to live, and they can make a really great life here. And a lot of that has to do with livability and affordability and making sure that our community is beautiful. We're taking care of our parks right now. We're working on that. We're working on our infrastructure and our roads right now. And if they see what we're doing with our community and the money that we're putting into the community and taking care of the community, maybe they'll want to stay. I don't know if I made that clear in the way that I wanted to say it, but small business owners bring money into this community. When you're spending money at a small business, that money stays here. And so the more we promote small business and support small business and bring these young professionals in to maybe start a small business, the better off we're going to be.
Andy, I'd like to actually
ahead,
throw
sure.
a curveball.
Oh, no, here we go.
And where are we at? Are we at Brett?
Brett,
Yeah,
Okay.
Brett.
So I'm gonna go off script here because Jen brings up supporting small businesses, and I want to know more about that. What could the city or city council do to help support small businesses in the community?
Yeah, so actually there was a non-traditional finance summit just this week up at the, I can never remember the name, but it's the South Central Community Cooperative. Anyway, it was a non-traditional finance, and it was folks from Region 9, GMG, the SBDC, all of these great organizations that are more or less there to support small businesses. And so I think a lot of people don't realize the amount of support that's already there. So there's a lot of opportunity for us to continue to communicate with those that are interested in starting a business, that they can go down to the SBDC and they can work on their business plan. They can work on their marketing plan. They can do some product development. Then they can go and they can talk to bankers through the Region 9 folks or through SCORE. There's a number of these organizations that are there for our enterprising future small business owners, our entrepreneurs, right? They always say that the most thriving and dynamic economies have the most entrepreneurs, because the entrepreneurs are the ones that are bringing the new ideas. They're hiring the most people. They're growing the fastest. They're paying the most because they're hyper competitive. So the more we can do to continue to promote entrepreneurship in this community will drive our economy.
Thank you. Dennis?
Okay, thank you. I think that what we can probably do is continue to provide the city services that we already provide, but provide those at a most reasonable cost possible. And I think that doing that, and the businesses are, in a more stable environment with the when we manage the costs that we have. And I think that's the most we can do for them. That's the interaction we have with the business. So.
Okay. Thank you. Jen?
There's a lot of different layers of how we can support small businesses. We can support small businesses by working with landlords to make sure that landlords aren't taking advantage of small businesses, which has happened numerous times in my career. I've watched landlords really kind of not be good. I'm just going to say that. So working with landlords and, working with, is there a way that the city could find grant money or funding or something that we can put in a coffer that's there to help small businesses when things like the flooding that happened this year happen. You know, the small business, it would be really nice if we had somewhere to go on the city level to get that support, to either direct us to find the funding or to have some sort of funding here. I don't know how that happens. It's a dream of mine. It's something that I think we could do, and it's something that I talk about a lot. But we have to, you know, look at different layers when it comes to pricing of buildings and rent and stuff like that, and also more advertising as to what is there for small businesses and how the city can support them. And people don't know a lot about the SPDC. They don't know that there's free help there. I am a small business owner who has dealt with a very large reconstruction project in front of my business, and I have had to reach out to the SPDC to get support and to get a loan. And it's been a long process, but they were actually there. And there's not a lot of banks that want to work with small businesses right now. Small businesses like mine, we're small potatoes. And so maybe, you know, bring to the table bankers that are going to say, hey, we're going to be there for small business owners, and we're going to help support them and not make it so difficult to get the support that you should be able to get from a bank. And so, yeah, I could say a lot more because I'm actually, my blood pressure's going up a little bit, so I'll settle down.
Love the passion.
Thank you. And Mike,
Give me that question again, please.
what more could the city be doing to help support small businesses
Right.
in our community?
I don't disagree with what anybody said about what more could be done, but in context, when you mentioned Region 9, as the chair of the Region 9 Development Commission, the revolving loan fund program is robust. We've actually hired a second revolving loan officer to be able to navigate that for more folks. There are several banks that are smaller, more nimble outside of Mankato proper, I think, that probably work better with them. But we do have some clients here in Mankato itself. But to your point is, that's not where everybody usually goes. They go to the big couple named places, and then they get deflated because that happens. And then what do you do from there? The city does have a incubator space at a Premier Drive. We also have 3 other buildings, 2 of them on the North 3rd Avenue end there, that are spaces that are available for companies to grow and expand as they need to. And I know I've asked over the years of like, hey, can we just sell it to them? Because, you know, they're using the whole thing. And the response from the city staff is no, because that's an asset that we could lose and not have back. And it's an incubator space we have here, even though, you know, a company's using 7,000, 8,000 square feet. And it's like, but they're using the whole thing. So, but evolution is what it is. The city constantly looks for ways to figure out what we can do. You know, it is, the perception is that the city's out there trying to attract these new and shiny businesses, but the reality is when Johnson expands, or, and I know it's granted it's a large company, but when Walmart decided to expand their distribution center here, those are big wins for our community because it's happening with the existing businesses here in growth and development. I look at, you know, companies like Rise that's manufacturing siding and things like that for companies. You know, they're a growing, developing company of using waste product and making more product out of it. And that's, again, where could we be in support of that? And happy to be part of that as well. So absolutely willing to do more, flexible about. I'd rather say no because we can't figure out how to make it work versus no, we don't want to. And I think the city right now is more of a, let's figure out how to make this work for people, but we need to hear and from them, and our economic development folks get out in the community and ask those questions. And so the businesses that are here right now have an open set of ears if they need them.
Very good. I'm going to ask one audience question. You guys are right on time, and I love it. Thank you very much. So I'm going to ask one audience question, and then Steve will ask our final question. So we recently hosted the state demographer in Mankato, and we learned that our state and our region is becoming more and more diverse. So in your role in the city council, I think, Dennis, you're up first here. What role should the city council play in making the community more welcoming to diverse populations?
I guess I'm not sure what, what the city's role in that is. I think
Why
that
don't you hit your mic there?
Sorry.
One more time.
Okay. Yeah, I guess.
One more time.
There you go.
Green light, green light.
You're good.
Yeah, I guess I'm not sure what I'd have to say about the city's role in that. There's a lot of organizations in Mankato that provide welcoming in events, and organizations that for of a wide diversity. But I guess I'm not sure what the city would do with that. I'm sorry.
Jen?
I think we could be, as a city, or even as the city employees and the city staff and council, just be more open to welcoming younger folks into spaces like this, and people from different cultures and people from that look differently than me. We could have a more diverse council, which would be really great. That's something that we would really love to have, and just be more open to the hard conversations that we might have to have about being a more diverse city and a more diverse council. Getting more people involved and being willing to talk, when we're asked to go speak somewhere or to talk to people, being willing to talk, but more than that, being willing to listen. I had talked to a friend recently who was dealing with some issues, and I said, what can I do to help? And this person happened to be of a different ethnicity than me, and I said, what can I do to help? And she said, you don't have to stand up. You don't have to take over the mic. Would you give us the mic? And would you listen? And that was a really powerful thing for me as a white person who has a lot more availability to grabbing a microphone. So I'm really trying to support people getting into the work that we do, and running for office, and even getting out there and door knocking, just not being afraid to be themselves. That's a really big part of it. And it's hard when you see a lot of people that don't represent you. And I want to represent everyone. And I'm also not that diverse in my skin color. So I need to make sure that I'm listening. And I hope that I made that clear. But we can do more talking and having conversation, and not being afraid of having the hard conversations.
Very good. Thank you. Mike?
Well, to put this context here, the city staff has been part of both the League of Minnesota Cities and the National League of Cities program called REAL, which is Race, Equity, and Leadership. And it's taking a significant amount of time and energy to say, here as an organization, how you need to change your inherent biases and know what those are already in place, and then what is occurring within your community and how that it relates to the services we provide. That's been going on for, I think, 7 years. And with that, it's now part of what goes through the process when our city hires in people, whether it be a police officer or administrative assistant in public works. It's baked into that culture of here's how we do this. And I will tell you that from a perspective on police, for instance, the state standard on diversity training, I think, is 4 hours of training for an officer. That's a state standard. We go 16. Now, are our officers the best in the world? I think we're pretty dang close to the best in the world. But it's things like that, because we decided to go above and beyond, because that happens. We've been very involved as a city in the Tapestry Project, which is a great opportunity to really engage with people in our services across the board, from our housing folks to public safety and public works have been engaged with people in the Tapestry program, the Council for Refugee Services as well, and it's really being a community partner and being open to knowing things have changed and who's not at the table. When I mentioned the strategic plan earlier, we specifically went with a firm that is good and very talented at reaching out to everybody that isn't in the room. And that's really the key, I think, that brought up in our strategic plan is, as Jen mentioned, currently our council is all homeowners, predominantly white, predominantly married, and boy, that doesn't really represent Mankato, right? Because there's a lot of people in Mankato. So it's asking, who's not in the room and who else do we need to listen to, which is something that the council continually tries to do as individuals as well as a whole. And then that's an expectation we have of our city staff, and we hope that continues to permeate across the country and the community. I can't think of a time when we haven't wanted to participate in something when asked, and I think it's leading the way as the graphic shows here. Sometimes it's not being the one in front, but also it's about being in the room and making sure others are in front, and we're there to support what they want to get done.
Thank you.
So,
There you go.
all right. I believe that to welcome diverse populations into our community, we need to diversify our new citizens into our community via jobs, boards, membership in the arts, and just basically diversifying into, as opposed to considering it a exclusionary kind of situation. There are certain things that we can continue to invest in, one being transit, right? If we can get out and if we can have access to moving around, that is one of the biggest ways that someone can feel included as opposed to excluded. Getting out, moving around, finding new people, finding new opportunities, new ways to socialize, gatherings. That's another important part of welcoming people with different perspectives and backgrounds. So I think of things like the Day of the Dead in Old Town, or even just something as simple as Alive After 5. It's access to free socializing. The other thing I think about is access, right? So making sure that our diverse populations have a way to communicate their differences into our differences as a community, and we start to integrate more together. So by having people in jobs and in programs that understand our diverse cultures, so that they can be a go-between, right? Sometimes it's just we have a barrier to communication. And then I think, the other thing is just making sure that we continue to support programs of inclusion and programs of awareness. I think awareness is one of the most critical things. So I think of things like the Diversity Council, just making sure that our community members are aware of their neighbors and aware of the differences that their neighbors bring to this community and how those differences make us great.
Very good.
Thank you.
Mr. Jameson,
So
would you read our last question, please?
we are ready to close the night, and it's interesting Andy comes up with this question, because this is what I ask everyone I interview, the last question. Why should voters vote for you? Could you please tell us why? Why you over anyone else sitting at the table? And we'll start with Jen.
One of the things that I have run on is that I am the community voice. So I listen to people in my community and in my district, and when there's a comment made or something, I'm there, and I'll listen, and I'll show up. And I want to be a representative for my community, and to be diligent, and to make sure that we're being really good stewards of our city and of our budget and of our community. And I promise to keep doing that, and vote for me, because I think you should.
All right. Mike?
I want this job. I really, the reality of it is that when I first ran in 2000, I thought, okay, again, don't want to sit on the couch, don't want to sit on a bar stool, tell everybody how everything is. I want to be engaged and find out what's going on in this community and how I can help guide us in that direction. I have an incredible amount of fun doing this, and it's not that I take it lightly in the comical sense, but my Mondays are geared to this. I mean, my pregame is reviewing the agenda the third time Monday before I come to the meeting, and I come in and let's go and let's hit the road. Apparently, there's other things that go on in Mankato on Monday nights. I don't know what that is, but I will say clearly that I come to this seat with a massive amount of preparation, a massive amount of drive and passion to figure out what's the best way our community can move forward, whether it's something routine as a development plan or passing an ordinance or directing the city manager to enter into agreement with the Department of Transportation to clean Highway 22 as it runs through Mankato, and they pay us for that. Those are the things that I get to do and I want to do and continue to do for the next 4 years. And that brings great joy to my life, which my kid said to me the night before I left, just go down there and make sense so that you don't have to be home on Monday nights, because Mom and I have this whole thing going on. And I was like, okay, so that's what I needed, so.
All right, thank you. Brett?
No offense, Mike, but I too want this seat. and I too am dedicated to bringing my service to this community. I feel it's a civic duty of mine to bring a much needed perspective, fresh voice, and the competence that I will bring to the city of Mankato. I have experience working with multi-million-dollar budgets, so can work on that side of the issues. I also have worked across numerous federal, state, and local government offices on policy, regulation, and permitting. Right? This experience allows me to work across political and geographic lines to help promote the initiatives that result in the best outcome for our citizens. I've engaged in the public process of gathering feedback, identifying priorities, negotiating trade-offs, and raising funds for public-private projects. I just want to go back to what I said at the beginning. I truly believe in Mankato, and I will work very hard to maximize the use of all of our citizens' hard-earned dollars, tax dollars, to ensure that the services and the quality of life provided in the city of Mankato is world-class. Thank you.
Thank you. And Dennis?
Turn the mic on this time. I think that I've shown dedication to the office of City Council, and I want to continue to be dedicated to the office and help Mankato to continue to succeed as it has in the past. I think that things are running well for Mankato, and I certainly want to be a part of that and help to keep it in that direction. I guess that's it. I want to listen to the constituents and serve them as well as possible, and continue to be dedicated to the office with attendance of events, committees that I'm on, and so forth. So.
Very good. Thank you, sir. Thank you to all of our candidates for the discussion this evening. Please join me in thanking them. Also, thank you to Steve Jameson of the Mankato Free Press for your partnership this evening. Thank you to the City of Mankato for hosting us this evening, and thank all of you for attending this evening. All of our forums are recorded and will be available online along with candidate biographies at greatermankatoelections.com. Thank you, good night, and don't forget to vote.